Major pushback from neighbors this morning on plans to bring more and larger jets to DeKalb-Peachtree Airport. DeKalb County commissioners planning to make their final decision today.
Atlanta News First Sarah Hammond is live in DeKalb County ahead of that meeting. And Sarah, some of those residents plan to be there as well.
Yeah, they do. The residents who have a lot of concerns about this expansion plan to meet here with signs ahead of the Board of Commissioners meeting. They also plan to speak during the public comment portion. But just to give you a little bit of an idea of what they are pushing back against, the proposal is to award a decades-long contract to Sky Harbor to build more aircraft hangars at the DeKalb-Peachtree Airport. The project has a $45 million price tag to build 8 hangars. Sky Harbor said the county will pay nothing for the build and generate $576 million in direct revenue and taxes and bring in about 600 jobs. But for residents who live around the airport, like Steve Racine, they want the airport to stay small and avoid increasing that noise level that they already hear. Steve, who represents about 26 of his neighbors, believes the expansion is a bad deal.
I think it needs to stay small. It needs to be a little regional airport just the way it is. It serves the community wonderfully, just as it is right now. The expansion that we're talking about it's talking about serving a constituency that is not the people in this area.
Now, according to the DeKalb County website, the airport actually has one of the highest numbers of runway incursions in the country, meaning there's an incorrect presence of an aircraft, a vehicle, or a person sitting on that runway. Now, the vote from the Board of Commissioners is expected to come a little later this morning. Live here in DeKalb County, Sarah Hammond for Atlanta News First.